The light knew that when they split up and searched the car, we bolt towards the bathroom, but strangely were open, and we hide inside. We took a minute to catch our breath, as our lungs were practically burning at this point. We should have called the cops, and instead we go to the doctor.
Didn't
But at the time
see.
we were so focused on getting the hell away from those crazy people that we decided to try and make our way to the next exit of the park and run to my house. We waited for about 2 minutes. We then bolted out of the bathroom and toward the exit of the park. Shortly before we exited the park, we heard one of the guys yell from somewhere behind us that he found us, and we were getting away. A bit behind us, the shooting guy and his friends started to chase after us. We ran until we reached my house, and I quickly opened the door and stopped. Both were sat there in silence, trying to regain our energy and calm down after what happened. Hoping we didn't seem very ransom. I was out the window several times on the floor for 10 minutes. Thankfully, we never saw it again. We talked about it, and we were both okay, and that nothing bad happened to us. We were trying to figure out what they wanted from us. Were they to kill us? Rob us? Or something worse? My friend and I for another half hour, so we insisted on heading home. He left when we started to bed. I kept thinking about what happened. I eventually fell asleep. I woke up and told my parents about what happened. They were thankful that me and my friend were okay. They were upset with us, but we chose to walk home. We should have accepted the work from my discovery. We were called home. They were coming to pick us up. Part of us we filed a police report, giving all the information. Unfortunately, we never heard anything. I sometimes wonder what the hell they've been doing ever since. I really hope they never harm another person after that. I think that's
Am I wearing that?
we ran through the basement for free. And to this day, this incident is still the scariest thing that's ever happened in this park. It definitely made me wary of my surroundings. And I finally go for a walk to the wall. By the way, I don't know what would have happened if those people got revenge on me. I didn't want to. I never want to make those people look at everything. Last year, I took a road trip in my best friend I was running with me. To make a long story short, my ex-girlfriend, who was a tattoo artist, was being sued by a guy that she had in Montana over an injury that he had apparently sustained during the session. She had asked me to come as a witness on her behalf, as I had been there the night in question. The trip was scheduled to take me between 20 and 22 hours driving along Route 30. I hopped in my headphones, paused
Santa
for a
Claus
second,
wants to come over.
and started driving before the newspapers had been delivered. It should be noted that the Altima was empty, and the only access to the back seat was by pulling the front
Hey,
seat
babe.
forward.
Huh? Huh?
Are you watching the stream?
Ever have more than one
You're
drink,
streaming again?
and I could
Yeah.
hardly understand
I didn't
what
get
was
a
happening.
notification.
I invited you.
I'm on my way, Care Bear.
I want to show you something.
Okay. What are you playing, Sims?
Yeah.
Ooh, I should play with you.
And everything is decorated for Christmas. It's really cute and homely. And Santa Claus just texted
Ooh,
me. He
that's
wants to
pretty
come over.
cool.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Look it.
Look at.
Oh, you're outside. What are you doing out there?
Hey, mommy.
Oh, you ran back in. Look at you.
No, Holly went home. I
Oh,
know, right? You little jerk.
tell her I'm sorry. It's a blizzard outside.
You said what, Holly?
Tell her I'm sorry. I'll be back soon.
Holly said she's sorry. She'll be back soon. Probably never.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, she ain't ever coming back here and doing what y'all say do no more.
I didn't say that neither.
That's not what she said. Can you hear her?
Rain, you better stop lying on me. I got work tomorrow night again, so.
Every single little thing that you had said right now, they heard all all of it.
Oh, look it, Santa Claus came to visit. And he's dancing.
Yeah, Mom can hear everything you said.
I'm playing The Sims. I didn't even say anything bad. What are you talking about?
Ha, you hear that, Mom? Yep, she heard you.
Okay. What did I say wrong?
Don't try to fake it off now.
Rain, if you don't close your lips. Rain always...
what we did get.
Right? I'll be over soon.
You should be sleeping with Zan.
Shut up, Rain.
Sleeping with Puppy.
Cigarette over there. She always leave me a little cigarette in the corner to remember her by. A little piece of cigarette, but here just for hard times. For hard times, huh?
I completely forgot.
That little crap she said you left. Don't nobody want that chewed on cigarette. All you do is chew on stuff.
You hush.
Face.
Look at Santa Claus came to visit. That is too funny.
Look at it. Look at it.
Much desert in every direction. I stepped out of the car, stretched my legs, and took a discreet leap behind a bush. And then I called my ex to make her aware of my progress, and then dropped a quick voicemail to my boss. Keep in mind this whole time I'm pacing along the side of the road, but ultimately I was facing my car. There was no one around. And even though every half minute or so another car would pass by, nobody stopped. Before I got back into my car, I put back in my earbuds. I closed the driver's side door and started up the car, fired up the AC, and was just shifting the car into drive when my passenger door slammed shut. My heart leapt into my throat, and I tore my earbuds out and looked over to my right. The front seat was pushed forward, and out of the corner of my eye, I noticed someone walking away from my car. I yelled, "What the fuck?" and spun around in my seat, immediately power locking my doors. The person walking away from my car was a short, disheveled man with thinning hair and a jean jacket with no shirt on underneath, maybe about 50 or so years old. I watched him in my rearview mirror, staggering around like he was drunk. He walked to the middle of the road where he stopped, bent over, and then vomited all over the pavement. That's when I noticed that he was wearing corduroy pants and blue Crocs. He wiped his mouth and turned to look at me. His mouth was kind of lopsided, and he was missing a few teeth. I heard him say something, but I could barely hear it from inside the car. I dialed 911 and gave the operator an estimate of where the guy was, and that he tried to get into my car. I watched as the guy began walking off into the desert. Hanging off his belt on his back, I noticed one of those leather pouches retail employees keep utility knives in. I told the operator he had a knife, and drove off. Whatever was going on, I didn't want to get involved and potentially get stabbed. I was so shaken up that I didn't stop again until I was running on fumes, playing in my head over and over again how that guy had gotten so close to my car without me noticing. Where did he even come from? The next time I stopped for gas was when it hit me. I didn't smoke, but there was an empty cigarette pack in my back seat. That's why the stale taste had been in the air. He had been lying in my back seat ever since I left San John, and I hadn't even noticed. When the door slammed, he hadn't been trying to get in. He had been getting out. I had been listening to my earbuds the entire time, and I hadn't heard or noticed anything. He could have stabbed me at any point, and I would have never seen it coming. I'm not sure if he was brain damaged or strung out drunk, but whatever he was, thank goodness he didn't decide to hurt me.
and that he got out of my car, and I didn't end up transporting him all the way to my destination. I never found out what happened to him or what he wanted. I rarely tell this story to anyone. Most people find it hard to believe and assume that I'm just messing with them, and I wish I was. I haven't listened to my earbuds in the car since. Someone that I used to know as a child committed an act so cruel and disturbing that I wish I had never met them before in my life. My parents found a house in a poor neighborhood that was south of Washington State. When we first moved in, me and my family introduced ourselves to the neighbors, where I met some kids around my age. One neighbor, who lived 2 houses down, established a friendship with my mother, and they became very good friends. They were both mothers and connected with similar interests in art. The neighbor's name was Heather. Heather had 2 kids, and at the time they were both in high school. Their names were Sierra and Jordan, and my mom wanted me to meet them since my parents were looking around for a babysitter. She wanted it to be someone that she could trust, since the area wasn't the greatest environment for kids. After spending some time with Jordan and Sierra, I got to know them a little, and frankly, I enjoyed their company while they watched over me as babysitters. Hanging around them made me feel much more superior than the average 5-year-old.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I had to fix my headset, sorry.
So my mom stopped having emotions. Sierra was a very kind and courteous person and began babysitting me by herself. She was a freshman in high school and needed the money. She became my childhood babysitter. She had no history of being in trouble at school or at home, so my mother gladly let her babysit me. Sierra would play board games with me, cook my favorite macaroni and cheese, and I gradually became closer to Sierra within a short span of time. My parents at the time received full-time jobs, so they asked Sierra to babysit me more, and in return, she would get paid more from my parents. She took up the offer, and I spent more time with her every day. I began to think of Sierra as one of my best friends at the time. She really did have an impact on my life. She also began working with my mom as a house cleaner. Everything was fine for my family overall. A couple of years go by, and I'm beginning elementary school and going to first grade. My parents began taking me up from school, and I had less time.
Oh, I can't take it no more.
I became somewhat distant from Sierra, as she had become a junior and was now pregnant. She would sometimes come over the house and babysit me and help my mother with a few chores around the house. But she became more mature and wouldn't talk to me as much as she used to. Her mother, Heather, had a severe medical condition which caused her to have constant painful headaches that she would experience for days at a time. Heather stopped talking to my mother and became a recluse, staying inside of her house with Jordan and Sierra. Sierra's demeanor began to change as her mother's condition began to worsen, which was understandable at the time, since her mother was going through a rough time. She began displaying an odd change of behavior and started getting into trouble at school. For what exactly, I honestly don't know, but it started to put a strain on Heather and Sierra's relationship, and they began to verbally fight with each other almost every day. Sierra would scream at Heather and flip out on her mom for very insignificant reasons. My mother caught wind of the altercations and told Sierra that she couldn't babysit me anymore, but could help her with chores when I wasn't there. One day Sierra was helping my mom clean out the basement when she asked if she could use our bathroom. She came down back to the basement 5 minutes later and finished cleaning. Later that day, my mom had to use the restroom. When she walked in, she saw what looked like a diary on the bathroom sink. My mom didn't recognize it, and with curiosity, began to open the book. What was in there was absolutely terrifying, as my mother found sections of the diary which graphically talked about rape and molestation. My mom never got into specifics about what was in the diary, and still doesn't like talking about it. My mother found Sierra's name on the back of the diary, and immediately called Heather and confronted her about Sierra's diary. Heather stated that Sierra had taken cuts from one of her books, and began writing them down in her diary. Heather acted like Sierra did this all the time, and it was no big deal. My mother then told Heather that Sierra was not allowed back in the house, and she wasn't going to be working with her anymore. She purposely left that diary there, but for what reason, I honestly don't know. Sierra had begun to claim that my neighbor Rodney had sexually assaulted her. Everybody in the neighborhood became skeptical of Sierra's claim due to her troubled behavior and never having much interaction with Rodney. Sierra never called the police. Rodney was never questioned about the accusations. Heather's medical condition worsened even more, and as a result, she died while Sierra and Jordan were both in their senior year of high school. Sierra dropped out of high school and claimed that she would be moving to Arizona with her boyfriend. She ended up moving out and going out to Arizona while Jordan moved in with his dad. When they left, my parents thought they would never hear from Sierra again, since she had moved on with her life. A few years go by, and I didn't hear anything about Sierra or Jordan, and frankly, I kind of forgot about them over the years. One day my parents talked to John, the neighbor who lived across the street. He asked my parents if they remember Sierra, and if they had heard from her since. My parents said they hadn't heard anything about Sierra since she moved. John said that he saw Sierra on the news, and that she had been arrested for child neglect. Police in Arizona arrived at Sierra's home after she called 911, and once she found her daughter deceased. She had been collecting welfare and living in a trailer with her 2 children. Those kids were neglected and suffered from malnutrition as Sierra became fat and wouldn't give the children barely anything to eat. There wasn't any air conditioning in the trailer, and Sierra would leave her kids in the trailer and go live at a friend's house or a boyfriend's house. She ended up going to trial in court for manslaughter and is now serving a 16-year prison sentence. I can't believe to this day that someone that my family trusted with me and was a best friend of mine for the majority of my childhood years would do something this cruel and inhumane. I wish that she never has another child in her life and never gets another dollar from welfare. Sierra, fuck you. Back in the spring of 1999, I was living in a loft apartment in Boulder, Colorado. The ceiling above my kitchen table leaked whenever it rained, and the window unit air conditioner was louder than a freight train, but otherwise it was acceptable and cozy, with a great view of the Rocky Mountains. At the time, I was writing articles for a paper, and after I had finished working my shift at the hardware store, I would spend about 3 hours writing and editing my column before bed. Normally I would get to sleep by 1 or 2 in the morning. Directly across the hall from me was a second loft apartment, which had been empty for a few years. Before a middle-aged woman and her cats eventually moved in, they were the only 2 apartments on the second floor of the building. But our doors didn't have numbers or indicators, such as apartment A or B, to distinguish the 2 separate residencies. I had a P.O. box, and I never received any mail at home anyway, so it didn't really bother me. But it did cause some confusion that I believe nearly resulted in my death. One evening I was typing away on my computer while listening to soft classical music on the radio. When I got up to refill my glass of wine, I walked past my front door, and completely on a random impulse, I decided to look out the peephole. I don't know what I expected to see. It was just after 1 in the morning after all, but sometimes you just need that peace of mind, which is exactly what I didn't get. Standing outside my neighbor's door, directly across from me, was a short, heavy-set bald man with gloves on his hands, but no shoes on. I remember spotting his gray socks against the dark wooden color of the floorboards. He wore a dark green windbreaker and jeans, and appeared to be testing the knob of my neighbor's door. I remember the sensation of my heart skipping a beat. I had no idea who this man was. I had never seen him before in the building. But it was his actions more than his appearance that made me uneasy. It was clear that he was trying to be very quiet. He had no key, but was consciously turning the knob back and forth to see if it was unlocked. I stared at him suspiciously for perhaps 30 to 40 seconds, concentrating very hard on keeping quiet, aware that if he got the door open, I may have to run and find my phone to call 911. After another few moments, he released her knob and bent down to open a gym bag by his feet that I hadn't noticed before. I caught a side view of his face, and he looked older than I had initially expected. Suddenly noticing his face made me nervous for some reason, and I began to feel my palms starting to sweat. Realizing I still had my wine glass in my hand, I took a careful step away from the door, and set my glass down on the table. I returned to the door, both hands carefully pressed against the wood.
as if making to reinforce it. I peered out through the peephole again. My blood froze. The man was looking directly at my door, standing completely still, a look of suspicion in his dark eyes, and a crowbar clutched in his left hand. My heart began pounding so loud in my ears, I was convinced that the stranger could probably hear it. The kind of people who were hacking didn't really work only one way, like most of them do nowadays. It just kind of frosted outside of the glass to blur the view of whoever was inside. All the lights in my apartment were out except for my desk lamp. When I stepped away from the door, I had seen the lamp shining through the peephole, and when I stepped back, I noticed the small pinprick of light vanish. I felt sweat begin to form on the back of my neck as the man took 2 steps forward and jiggled my knob, which was securely locked. I forced myself to stay put, worried that if he made the break in, even with my full weight on the door, I wouldn't be able to prevent him from getting in. The man jiggled the knob twice more, and I was terrified by the fact that we were so close together. Had the door not been there, he would have been able to feel my breath on his skin. I watched as the man again looked up at the peephole. I remember his blue eyes feeling cold, savage, and malicious. I just knew that he intended to cause me or my neighbor harm. That's when the unthinkable happened. He knocked softly 3 times on my door. I heard him whisper, "Open it." There was no way he could have known sure that I was there. Too afraid to turn my back on the door, terrified that he was bluffing, and that he would come back upstairs at any moment. I made myself count to 20, and then I took a deep breath, walked across the room to my desk, and picked up my Nokia cell phone, and called the police. Whispering the entire time, I informed the operator that there was a suspicious man right outside my apartment door, but I had barely spoken for a full minute when she informed me that a squad car was already en route to that address. I happened to glance out the window, and I noticed the bald man was standing on the sidewalk beneath me. He saw me peeking. He waved a hand up at me, then disappeared across the street into an alleyway. I nearly choked on my breath, and told the operator exactly where the man had gone. When the police arrived an agonizing slow few minutes later, they searched the alleyway before coming up to interview me and my neighbor. She had called the police a few minutes before I had, because she had seen the shadows of feet coming from under her door in her dark apartment, thanks to the light in the hallway. She revealed that she was in the witness protection program,